What's that bright thing in the sky? I haven't seen that for a few days. Anyway, today we've lined up these three cars. If you're in a position lucky enough to spend about £50,000 and you want a luxury SUV that's four-wheel drive, this is probably what you're going to be looking at, certainly on the used market. They're all more expensive new, but they're all around about £50,000 on the used market in the UK today. And we've got to drive this car a couple hundred miles to go and deliver it. So we're going to take these two alongside it and see just exactly how they compare for real world range and efficiency, plus of course charging speed. So what have we got? We've got the Model X 75D, and that's the smallest battery for the Model X. Excuse the truck. It's the smallest battery for the Model X, but that brings it down to that price point. The 90D, 100D tend to be more money. Then we've got the Audi E-tron 55 Quattro. That's got a 95 kilowatt hour battery pack, so the biggest pack here, although about 85 kilowatt hours of that is usable. And you've seen this in some of our other videos, I'm sure. And then we've got a Jaguar I-PACE EV400 SE. I think these are really nice cars. They're a little bit smaller than the others, but it's a four-wheel drive luxury SUV. Will it be more efficient? With its 90 kilowatt hour battery pack, it should stand really well compared to these two. So today is warming up nicely, 12 degrees Celsius at the moment, it's about 52 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got a couple hundred miles to cover, so let's get straight on with it. So Serge, in the Model X, we've charged all these cars up this morning. Serge, in the Model X, what's the mileage displayed with a full charge?
189.
189 miles in the Model X. The Jaguar I-PACE has 234 miles displayed. Gint, what's your displayed mileage on your full charge?
It was 195, but I just switched on AC and it went down to 182.
Okay, let's all switch to efficiency, I think, because that's what you do on a longer journey anyway. Okay, if you've got efficiency mode, we'll put your efficiency mode on the e-tron and the range mode on the Model X. And I'm in eco mode on the Jaguar. Okay, are we ready?
We are ready.
I think we're ready. Sunglasses on, let's hit the road. Let's go. We've just pulled away from our unit now to start making progress. So we put each car into their efficiency and eco mode. So with the Tesla Model X, it has an option for range mode, with the Audi e-tron efficiency mode, and with the Jaguar I-PACE eco mode. And what it tends to do is just cut the amount of power being used by the heating and air conditioning, and it just helps with the maximum efficiency in each car, which maybe day to day you wouldn't use, but actually on a long journey I would normally put the cars in those modes. Cabin's already at temperature, it's already comfortable, so it doesn't really make any difference. You're just sitting on a motorway, perfectly comfortable. And so we're in eco mode to try and get the best kind of range out of this. We are going to do a real world range test. We're not going to try and hypermile. We're going to drive at the national speed limits and give you a real world indication on these sort of conditions that we have today. Okay, so I'm on an open road at the moment. I've just been sat at 70 miles per hour on the cruise control with lane keeping on, which I quite like, by the way. It's quite good on this Jaguar. Just be interested to see really what the other cars are showing. We're all on kind of radar cruise controls, so let's see what they've got. Gints and the Audi, going at constant 70 miles per hour. Is it showing the same on the Audi?
The Audi reads at 68 miles per hour.
Serge, in the Tesla, what have you got?
I'm doing like in 68 miles per hour.
Okay, that's interesting. So the Jaguar's reading 70 miles per hour, they're both reading 68 miles per hour. Let's pick this up a little bit then. Let's go to 72 for me. Okay then guys, I'm at 72 miles per hour indicated now, so Gents and the Audi, what have you got?
I got 70 now.
Serge, what have you got?
I'm on 69 now. 70 actually just came. 71 actually now.
Okay, that's interesting. So the speedo in the Jaguar reads 1 or 2 miles per hour higher by the look of it. There we go. I think when I tested with the Audi e-tron before, and certainly with Teslas, they're pretty close to their GPS speed. There's barely any difference. Most cars do read over your true GPS speed, so it seems like the Jaguar is more in keeping with that basically. But there we go. Possibly a useless fact, but mildly interesting. So thinking about it, that difference between the indicated speed on the I-PACE versus the Tesla and e-tron, would make a difference if somebody said, well, I'm going to drive the I-PACE at 70 and I got this economy, and somebody drove the E-tron at 70 and I got this economy. Well, actually they're driving at two different speeds, and maybe it's a couple of miles an hour difference, but that actually makes quite a difference with an electric car. The difference in drag is really quite substantial with just a couple of miles an hour difference. So yeah, that would make a difference. So that's why these economy tests, the best way to compare is, like I say, with same speed in convoy. They're behind me now, same conditions, same weather and everything like that. So this is a true comparison, but if we weren't doing this in convoy, you'd have to be measuring GPS speed, which I know Bjorn does a great job. Love Bjorn. But for anyone else who says I get this when I drive at 70, it's going to be different. There we go. Again, just for a little experiment, not the most scientific, I'll admit that, but we each have a sound meter just on our phones, and we reset them, pulled away, pulled in again, and see what we average. So I think this does tie in with what I expect or feel from driving all these cars, and that is that the Audi e-tron is the quietest, and that was averaging about 74-75 decibels on the motorway, 70 miles per hour. The Jaguar I-PACE I'm in here was averaging 76-77 decibels, and the Tesla Model X was averaging about 77, 78, but dropping to 76. So kind of similar, but three different phones. You know, I'm not proclaiming it's the most scientific. We'd need 3 sound meters at the same time in different cars on the same bit of road, which we don't have 3 of those. So sorry, but again, we're just doing what we can. But it does tie in with what I think, which is the Audi e-tron is the quietest. It really is very quiet in that car. The I-PACE is very quiet. It's a very nice, comfortable place, just very mild wind ruffling and the tyre noise, but really well suppressed. It's a nicely insulated car. And the Model X closely behind that, again, pretty quiet. You just tend to get a little bit more of the wind noise with the Model X, I think. So there we go, our most scientific version of noise comparison inside the cabin at 70 miles per hour. See these mean looking headlights on this Audi. It's going to start up, look, it's next to me now, there it is. Let me just talk about the ride difference comparison. All these cars have got air suspension. I've now been driving this for quite a long time, done about 100 miles now, and they're all very comfortable cars, it has to be said. Let me rank them in order though. The Audi e-tron, first place. Soft ride, it's got such big wheels and tyres, even big wheels and then big tyres around them, so I think that helps, but that's very, very soft. There's a bump coming up here, let's have a look at that suspension. Yeah, car didn't even move, the wheel went up and down. This Jaguar I-PACE is on air suspension, which isn't standard. I think you have to have that as an option, and I think it's very comfortable. Again, it's just that it's got this nice balance between kind of feel but comfort. It absorbs, it's very good. And then the Tesla also on air suspension, but just a little bit firmer, still comfortable. And the later Teslas with what they call the Raven edition, so kind of a 2019 Tesla onwards, actually has adaptive damping. So those adaptive dampers actually soften the Tesla off a little bit more if you put it in comfort mode, and that does a pretty good job. I think the order still stays the same, to be honest. Audi the most comfortable for ride comfort on the motorway, and then probably the Jaguar with air, and then the Tesla just about in third, but with it's a Raven one, probably similar to this, to be honest. Does that make sense? Hope so. All comfortable. Covered just over 100 miles, just exiting this junction for the motorway. So going from the M40 now to join over to the M1, so cutting past Silverstone and such like. So we've covered just over 100 miles so far, and this Jaguar is showing 53% battery remaining, so no problem there. Let's see what the others have got. Dints in the Audi, what's your battery percentage now? We've covered just over 100 miles.
Yeah, I got 52% left in a battery.
52, okay, I've got 53. What about you, Serge, in the Tesla?
I've got 43 left in the battery and 30% when I get there.
43%, yeah?
Correct.
Okay, so the Tesla, as you would expect, has the smallest battery, is lower than the I-PACE and e-tron. But these are very similar, these two cars, so let's see how we go. I think what we'll do now, we've got this little section with roundabout, the dual carriageway, roundabout, dual carriageway. So let's go into maybe a non-eco mode. Okay guys, seeing as this section here is all dual carriageway, roundabout, dual carriageway, roundabout, turn off your eco modes, go into your more dynamic settings or standard settings and see what you think of it there, and see if that impacts the range of these cars. Okay, so I've just got to switch down here. I'm going to go to, I've got rain, ice, snow. No, we don't have that for a change. That makes quite a commonly used setting probably in the UK. Comfort, dynamic. Here we go. The Jaguar is in dynamic mode. Suddenly you can feel that the throttle's sharper. It's much more eager to go. And all the dials have gone red in front of me. So this gives us more punch now, more responsive throttle. Obviously that will affect range, but you know, come off the motorway now, so let's see how these they feel in their non-eco modes. This Jaguar makes quite a nice noise when accelerating. I think it's a bit of synthesized noise for like a engine sound. It's quite subtle, but I quite like that. That's nice. Certainly quite quick actually. It's got very agile steering. I think actually probably the most agile of the three. And it's got some little bit of feel to it as well, which I think neither of the other two have much of at all. So actually this Jaguar SUV can feel quite sporting when you want it to be. And also on the brakes, I think it has a bit more kind of brake bite to it than either of the other two. So for slightly more spirited driving, it's not a bad car at all for that. As long as that comes up on the microphone, it'd be good if you can hear that. I mean, it comes off a roundabout and gets straight up to 70 miles an hour in an instant. It's brilliant. So that was a bit fun. In sport mode, dynamic mode, the I-PACE really does come alive quite nicely. It's punchy, steering's good. Yeah, you know, actually turns into quite a good little sports car, this. This is the lightest of the bunch. It seems to be quicker. It just about seemed to have the edge off the Audi as we were coming off roundabouts, but obviously we're on public roads, we can't push the cars properly. On paper it's quicker, and it did seem to have a little bit of an edge over the E-tron. But the E-tron weighs 2.5 tons. It's the heaviest one here. The Model X75D weighs about 2,300 kilograms, and this I-PACE weighs about 2,150 or 2,130, I think it says. So it is the lightest, and actually about 400 kilograms lighter than the E-tron, which is quite a lot. For a similar sized battery as well, but then it is just a bit of a smaller car. Anyway, in dynamic mode, it's really quite good. It's got the sort of steering feel that the E-tron certainly doesn't have. That the E-tron's much more of a relaxed sort of steering rack, and doesn't quite have the same dynamics to it. So again, different in different ways. All good cars, to be honest. I'm enjoying driving this, but much as I enjoy driving the other. So yeah, all good so far. Squirrel just ran across the dual carriageway in front of me. I can confirm the brakes on the Jaguar are pretty good. He just about survived that, and yeah, I saw him run off in the mirror, so phew, close one. I think it kept Gints and the Audi behind me awake. Anyway, no squirrels were harmed in the making of this video, fortunately. But it was very close. We've done just under 150 miles, and it's as far as we're going to go before we all go off in our completely different directions. And we're at Rugby Services, where we've got a mixture of the new 350 kilowatt high power chargers from GridServe Ecotricity, and there's also some Tesla superchargers down there. However, the Tesla is not with us. Can you guess why? No, it's not because he's run out of charge. We don't have a CCS adapter for that Tesla, and these are V3 superchargers where you do need a CCS adapter. I think they're really useful. If you've got a Tesla, you should get one, really. So he has pulled off, Serge has pulled off at another charging point just before here, about 15 miles short of here. So time for some figures, so bear with me. There's no interesting way of doing this other than reading off some stats, I'm afraid. Right, so before we all split off, or before the Tesla split off, sorry, we had covered 122 miles according to the Jaguar. The E-tron recorded 120 miles and the Tesla recorded 123.9 miles. So there's actually sort of 2 miles of difference between the E-tron and Jag, and 4 miles of difference between the Tesla and the E-tron. So therefore an E-tron with less miles might have actually covered more, or maybe the Tesla with more miles has covered less. Anyway, can't really do much about that. So at the time we were still all together, after 122-ish miles, the Jaguar still had 44% of its battery remaining and had averaged 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. The E-tron had 42% of its battery remaining, so just a little bit less, but it also averaged 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. The Tesla was down to 31% of its battery left, which you'd expect. It has a smaller battery, and that had averaged just under 3 miles per kilowatt hour. So Tesla most efficient, E-tron and Jaguar much the same. Now we've come to Rugby. We covered those extra miles. The I-PACE says it's covered 147.2 miles and the E-tron says it's covered 144.8 miles. So again, a little bit of difference in distance. So working out the I-PACE economy, because it does it in a different format, it does it in kilowatt hours per 100 miles, but it seems to work out to be just under 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, and the E-tron was 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour still. On the last section of motorway, we actually turned off the eco mode, and in that mode the I-PACE seemed to be sort of more efficient, really. Well, there we go. So either way, there's not vast amounts of difference in efficiency between these two, with the Tesla being a little bit more efficient. We'll just come out the way for a car that's coming past. However, what we've done now is we've plugged into these chargers, and as expected, I think this is where the E-tron is going to streak ahead. It does charge very, very fast. So we're going to come back to you in a moment with some details of how fast they've charged, how long it's taken to recharge, and also get the data from the Tesla, who's on a supercharger 15-20 miles short of here. So we'll do that in a second. Okay, so whilst these are charging, I've managed to work out kind of pro rata calculation based on that journey to the point where we had to separate the Tesla off, what the cars would be able to do in theory from 100% to 0 miles. So again, some more numbers. Let's start off with the Jaguar. That would pro-rata out to be a total of 218 miles based on the conditions today, which are windy and getting colder, I think. The E-tron would be able to do 210 miles, and the Tesla X75D would be able to do 177 miles. So there we have it. In the meantime, after 30 minutes of charging, let's have a check. 32 minutes of charging, the Audi has just finished its charge all the way to 100%. It took 23, ticking on to 24 minutes to go to 90%. So as expected, super fast charging, 150 kilowatts all the way through to about 80%, and then it just tails off slightly, but still pulling a strong charging speed right to 100%. The Jaguar, at the same time we started these cars, is currently on 33 minutes past and is on 78% of charge. So I think not too bad. You know, if you went in the services here and had a lunch and then come back out at 80%, you'd carry on your journey really. But whilst we gather up some more numbers, we'll see. That's Serge on the phone, so let's just see how long it took him to get his charge. He was looking at about 45 minutes to go back to 90%. So let's just double check with Serge. Bear with me. Okay, and I've just heard from Serge, the Tesla Model X75D to get back to 90% on a V2 supercharger took 52 minutes. So that was pretty slow with that. I'll see how long it takes for the Jaguar to continue, but the Audi is good to go. He's going to carry on his way now, and I'm just going to wait here for a few minutes whilst I go to the toilet, come back, and I'll see how long it takes to get to 90%. Last update really, the Jaguar I-PACE is just coming back up to 90% now after, well, it's 44 minutes, 89%. So let's say 45 minutes for the I-PACE to get back to 90%. And remember, that was 23 minutes onto 24 for the E-tron and 52 minutes for the Tesla Model X. Interestingly, what I would say is the E-tron, all the time I've used and charged this car, always charges with exactly the same profile, kind of 148, 150 kilowatts all the way through. every time to 80%, and then it just slightly tails off but finishes to 100% very quickly. Whilst we're here, a Taycan just pulled up and he had just over 50%, but he was only pulling 106 kilowatts out of those chargers, and he'd already driven quite a long distance from London. So it was interesting that that Taycan on this conditions today didn't actually come up to its potential charging speed. And we have charged an Audi e-tron GT RS here, which is the same battery as this Taycan, and that was pulling a faster speed. So temperature conditions, obviously a few variables. We did see one of the chargers on that e-tron GT RS being the same kind of speed as that, 106 kilowatts. So anyway, that's not about these cars, but it's interesting how those cars can vary, but this Audi e-tron always stays very consistent, was my point really. So we're going to wrap it up for now for today. I'm heading back, he's going one way, the Tesla's going another way, but I hope that's been a useful comparison. When we get a chance in the unit, we'll probably do a little bit more of a review about the I-PACE in general, space inside, what we think of it after a long drive, boot space and such like. But in terms of efficiency and charging speeds, on a direct side-by-side comparison, driven at the same speeds, that's it for today on this one. So I hope that was useful. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter as well. Like this video if you found that useful. Comment below with anything you want to say, and I will always try and answer those questions. Thank you very much.